Hello guys, Notcase here again, and I want to make a little modeling tutorial on buildings and such so that you can make models for the Kerbin City community project better. And the first thing I'm going to say is that I'm primarily primarily making models in 3ds Max. If you want to build in Blender or SketchUp, it's of course okay, but I don't know it. So I'm probably going to talk now about about the techniques that I would use in 3ds Max, but I'm not sure if this is the exact way you would do in other modeling software. In theory, it is the same. So by now you have probably seen the common textures pack that I've posted, the second pack. And it has a few more textures that I added. Well, in the first pack there was only grass and some concrete, if I remember, and a road, yeah. And now there's more, but it's still not a lot. But it should help you to get your material count reduced a lot. So you have seen in that pack probably this texture. It's I call it tileax facades, but it's not really tiling. It's tiling. In the upper segment is tileable, but the lower is not really. So you may wonder, like, oh yeah, I can use this one, very good. I can make a poly and then tile horizontally. But what with these textures? I can't use these ones. Well, the thing is that you should focus much more on the material and texture count than on polys. So tiling textures is something that you should actually avoid. It's much better to actually make a little tiny piece of texture and then put it on the poly, and then copy that poly a lot of times in the modeling software. So for example, I'm going to show you now how to do it for one particular facade. I'll make a plane, and I'm going to rotate it. So I'm going to rotate it, no, not like this, not like that. Okay. So we have practically a I'm just going to position the pivot so I can do it. So what I have is a segment of facade, and of course it's much more important to think about the little facade and one little piece that you're going to tile a lot. It's very important to find the generic parts of the structure you're making. For example, I made as you may have seen, the modular street segments, or also the cranes that are in the construction areas. They're also modular. I just made a few parts and then copied the rest, and you can really make very nice structures. So it's much better to make generic modular structures and then just copy them. And this is exactly what I'm trying to do now with a facade, with a non-tileable facade, or the non-tileable texture. So I'm going to use this texture, for example. So I'm just going to take the okay, oops. Okay, and I'm going to apply it to the poly. Now, as you can see, the whole texture is applied to one poly, and it's squashed. Well, you need to UV map. In 3ds Max, this is how you would do it. There is a UV map option, and you can take you have the whole poly, and you can take its edges, resize it, and put it on the area you need. So in this particular case, I'm going to put it on the, oh yeah, I sent this one. I'm going to put it on the edges, and you can see that I've blurred these parts so that you don't see the edges very well in the, I mean, because of the MIP mapping, which actually reduces the texture size in the distance. The textures seem to bleed if they're high resolution textures and they're reduced. So if you put two different colors, for example, very close to each other, like I have here this black and this beige, you can actually, if you go from a distance, you can see them MIP mapped and bleeding onto each other, which is not very nice. So what I did is actually like blur these lines between it and leave some space. So the edges of the texture are still clear, but I've just added this sort of buffer between the two textures. So you can see that these unblurred parts, I'm going to just match them. Oops, what did I do here? Okay. Oh yeah, one more thing that I forgot to note is that you should start working right away in the Kerbal size, which I didn't. So I'm going to make a box that is 0.8 by 0.8 by 0.8, and it's 0.8 by 0.8, not 1 by 1 by 1 as everybody is doing, because the whole model is going to be scaled later in the game by 125. So when you get, so you should actually assume that Kerbal is 0.8 meters higher than 1 meter. So in that case, it means that one floor in game should be about 2 or 3 Kerbal sizes. Let's take 3 Kerbal sizes. So I'm just going to scale this plane down to that scale. Okay, that's about it. Doesn't really matter. So let's see what the Kerbal is like. Oh yeah, he is really tiny. So let's actually take 2 Kerbal sizes. Okay, that's much better. So now I'm going to turn this into poly, so I can so the UV map modifier is cleared. And what actually now I can do is, oh yeah, first I should scale it. These textures are taken from photos, and you should know that the aspect ratio of these textures is correct, so they're not squashed on the texture. So you should look into the texture and then scale the model according to it, and we can see that our windows are a bit wider. So I'm just going to do it like this. Okay, that's about it. So and now instead of having a huge cube as most of the people do, and then tile the texture on it, I actually start from a very little poly, and now I can tile this one little poly into many polys like this. So I can tile it, let's say 6 times, and as you can see, the seam is almost unrecognizable. And yeah, here it is seam. So you can see it, but you know, it's almost, well, maybe you can correct it a bit. I think I've taken it over the edge. Let's see. No, it's okay. On this side? Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, that's okay. But for example, I don't really need to take the whole texture, you know. It's kind of funny that there is a door, or oh, actually it's not a door, it's like a stair. You see it continues on the up, and it's sort of like a stair. There's a staircase inside. So it's really funny to have stairs after every 2 windows. So what you can actually do with this is, I'm going to erase these ones, is that I can actually cut this texture into smaller pieces and then tile just the windows or just the stairs. So if I take a look from the, we don't need this anymore. If I look it from the side, I can cut up the texture and cut only the windows. I'm going to cut it here like this, and I'll cut it here like this. So this should be about, there might be some bleeding. It's okay. So now I've created actually 3 planes that each has its own element, and that's quite beneficial because now I can recombine them. So I can put this plane into a another segment, and there I have 2 windows now. I can do the same thing on the other side, and I can have 2 windows more and more. And now I have a full width of the building, for example, if this is a whole facade, and then I can copy it up and create more floors. And you see, you already have the building. We can see that we don't have this kind of pillar over there, so we can also add another. We can also cut this one, take it to the other side, and well, I could have used this one, but it doesn't matter. Cut it here and just erase this poly, then add it on this side, and there we have a full facade. And now we can tile it up and do whatever we want. Now there's another thing that you may want to use, and I'm not actually sure how many polygons is it going to take, and if we get some kind of loading capability, which is level of detail, which means that one model is a lower polygon model is loaded on a higher distance from the camera, and a more detailed building is loaded when the camera is closer to the building, which is really good to save performance time. And if we are maybe able to do this in the next updates, then it would be really cool to have extruded windows, for example. So you can use it like, we're going to leave this. So for example, in this case, we can see that there is a hole here, extruded segment. So we can make it like this, and here like this, and this side like this. So that, oh yeah, and this we can cut like this. Okay, so we can take these 3 elements and polys and practically extruded inside. Oops. Sorry. What? Okay. So not much, but something like this. But yeah, I forgot to mention that now that we have extruded, these extruded polys are actually kind of smudged, as you can see, because they're wrapped from this one single pixel that we have extruded it from. And yeah, we have to correct that. What I'm going to do is select all the faces and then remap it with a cubic map modifier. I can use the box, whatever size, and convert it to poly, and use the unwrap map again to put it on the bricks that we have had previously. Like this. So you can see that now the bricks are almost the same as these bricks, and it's much better. Now for these, I shouldn't have changed this one, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, you can detail a lot about these UV maps, and they're pretty fun. But you know, that's the real point, that you need to focus on these little segments and properly UV map them, because if you first model without even thinking about them, you're going to get into a lot of trouble later. For example, I've seen people that have made a lot of facades with wavy facades, and then they can't properly map it because it's so hard, and you really need to think about that beforehand.